Are you a Marxist? What is your understanding
Yes,
of
I am.
Marxism?
My understanding of Marxism is that it is mostly a scientific theory, and that it is a scientific theory describing the structure of human society, the development of human society, and how those two play on each other, and how that arises in the continued progress of human society, and the various modes of social organization that will arise from that development.
But that's just a very broad description, like many.
Exactly.
Yes, but I think it's not a sufficient description.
I think it is a very sufficient description of what I think most people would consider Marxism to be.
Yes, it's a very like when I ask you what is a bird, and you say it is an animal that is a mammal and blah blah blah, then it's a correct description, but it's, in my opinion, too broad. I need like I would like to hear things that would distinguish it from other animals, basically. Like,
I guess I don't understand what you mean. There isn't any other like broad mode of social analysis like Marxism out there.
There is no other broad mode of social analysis?
Yeah, not one that I know of, at least.
Okay. So you think it's sufficient to just say that and somebody knows what Marxism is?
Well, of course not. But I'm not going to get into the details of what Marxism is unless somebody specifies like what it is specifically they're wanting to know. Somebody might say, "So I've heard a term come up."
No, let's say I don't know what Marxism is.
Can you maybe expand on that a little bit, and then I would. But if somebody just asked me, so like most people would in an interview, they'd say something like, "So briefly, what is Marxism? What do you understand Marxism to be?" And then I would have said exactly what I said there. And then from what I said, people might ask more specified questions that take and relate specific areas of Marxism, like say historical materialism or the labor theory of value or the other areas of analysis that are used broadly within the Marxist tradition.
Yeah, sure, let's hear them.
Well, which one? What about it?
Bro, when you say like it's a mode of social analysis, like what are the main theses about like when you ask me about like if you would ask me wait if you would ask me
materialism,
if you would ask me about Adam Smith, for example, right, I could just like give you a broad stroke, just like a summary of his moral theory, of his philosophy of the theory of the moral sentiment, and then a few theses out of Wealth of Nations, and then you would have like a broad picture of what would be like Smithianism, or however you would call it, right? So just, I don't know, give us a broad understanding of what you understand by Marxism. Like, what are the main theses and what are the main... if you want, man. If you don't want to, it's all right. You don't have to.
So the three primary areas of Marxist thought are dialectical materialism, historical materialism, and the labor theory of value. Each one of these is applied in particular ways to understand sort of, first off, what the world is and establish the fact that the world consistently changes and that there is no stop to that consistent change, the ways in which reality fundamentally changes, and then taking that and applying it to human society and seeing that human society changes in similar ways and under similar mechanisms, and then using that to understand how it is that societies change, the kinds of systems that arise in society, the ways that society is structured as a result of its continued change, of its continued development into the future.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want like specifics on any one of those, then we're going to have to focus in specifically on that, because these aren't like the easiest things to understand. Marxism is a pretty thick concept. It's a pretty thick theory, if you understand what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is very broad. That's why, like, I think it might make more sense to just focus on, instead of like going into the determinism and all of the like historic materialism and all of these things, like it might be more interesting or make more sense in the context of this conversation to talk about just the labor theory of value and about surplus value. What do you think?
What about it?
So I think one of the biggest issues is that in the surplus, basically risk is not part of that calculation.
Well, what do you mean by risk?
So the idea behind basically surplus being generated by work is, I think, is wrong. I think the one of the main contributors to a new object, an invention, is always risk. And if you don't price that in, you will not basically incentivize anyone to take any risk.
I still don't know what you mean by risk. What is risk?
By risk, I mean, just like when we take a very, very simple example, is when I, for example, I'm on an island and I have just stick and stone and I'm hunting and I'm gathering food. I decide to make an instrument, for example, I don't know, a bow and arrow, for example. And basically, I'm taking the risk of not working for my survival in the hours that I'm working on this object, basically, this new invention. And I don't yet know if this invention is going to be successful or not. I just risk basically my labor and my time in order to produce something unknown, like basically where I don't know if the result is going to be certain or not. Whereas when I'm hunting like before and fishing like before and doing things like before, I have a significantly reduced risk because I have already have the experience of successfully hunting and fishing and planting stuff. And yeah, so just like as a really, really simple example.
That's an example, but not a definition. So I don't know.
Do you want a definition of risk?
Like what risk is in an economic, like what variable represents risk? How does it engage with the other variables in an economy? Like what
like in an economy, it would just be money, right? You could just translate everything into money, like all the time and all the effort. You could like the time and the effort, you could just, and the opportunity costs, you could just translate into money, and then you could put that in a variable, basically. But do you want to know what risk means as a word, like, or what do you mean?
No, I just, because surplus value is just, it's sort of really a difference. So I just don't know how risk really factors in. Because I don't know what it is. I don't know.
You don't
what
think you
kind
have to
of
take a
variable
risk?
it is.
You don't think that you have to take a risk when you're inventing something?
It depends on what risk means. I mean, I don't know what it
You don't
means
know
yet,
what risk
so I
means?
can't.
You don't know what risk means?
In this context, no.
In any context?
Well, but other contexts that aren't this one don't matter. It doesn't matter if I understand what risk means when I'm talking about swimming with sharks, because that's not an economic sense of risk. We're talking economics, not
Okay,
swimming with sharks.
Risking when I'm trying to, I've given you the example, like the risk is the danger of losing something, the possibility of losing something.
Okay, workers have risk then too when it comes to business.
Yes,
but
yes,
still,
which
I
what
don't
I have said,
understand how that
but
factors
the
in.
risk is significantly lower.
I don't think it is.
You don't think that it is significantly a lower risk or return on investment when if you go to work and you know that you're being paid for what you do, versus you open your own business and you don't know if you're going to get any money for the work that you put in? You don't think that there is a risk there?
But there's way more of a risk with the worker because he's risking his literal entire life on that job. He needs that job. He needs the income that he earns. He needs the medical care that's provided. All that stuff. The owner doesn't.
He's pretty.
The owner does. The owner could go bankrupt and will be just fine. But if the worker loses his job, he's lost his livelihood.
Just from an empirical perspective, the likelihood of him getting paid is very, very high. He's getting paid like every day.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of the person opening their own business that succeeding is really low.
Depends on the industry. Rates of success vary by industry.
It's significantly like
the problem is
what do you think is the like, let's say I work in order to build up my new business. I work 1 month. What do you think is the, just empirically on average, the difference in probability between me getting paid for this 1 month of work and a normal worker at a normal job getting paid for 1 month of work. How high is the like, do you see that like just mathematically, just empirically, the risk is like a million times higher?
Well, I don't know how we're quantifying risk to be able to include it into any mathematics at all.
I can tell you, it's really easy. It's really easy. I have a business. I want to open a business, okay? I want to open a restaurant or whatever I want to open, okay? And I am expecting to get paid some X within that month and get a loan of some X per hour, right? That's what I'm expecting to get if my business succeeds, right? And another worker, he has a fixed loan, he has a fixed wage, and he expects to get that when he's working for that 1 month. What's the like? And then we look at all the wages being paid out in the country, and how many of them have not been paid out because somebody got fired, because the business went bankrupt, etc. Like, what's the if you do you have a job right now?
Right now, no.
Okay, but let's say you have a job, right? We could easily calculate what the probability is that you are going to get your paycheck at the end of the month, right? Because we could just look at all of the wages being paid in the country over the last year, for example, and just see how many of them have been paid and how many of them have not been paid because the company went bankrupt, because the boss was an asshole or whatever, right? We could calculate that risk, right?
I have no idea.
Bro, man, this is like getting dishonest, man.
Well, because
Bro,
we
you're
still
getting
don't
this
know what risk
like
is.
I feel
don't
like
know what variable
no,
represents
I don't want to
risk.
do this anymore.
I don't know what
man.
it is as a mathematical structure, so I don't know how
Bro,
to include it into mathematics.
you can calculate it. The
Yeah,
risk in this
I don't
case
know
is
what's being calculated. What's being calculated?
the probability of not getting paid.
So by risk, you mean the probability of getting paid. That's what you're referring to.
The probability of not getting paid, because risk is a danger. Like, the risk is the negative. Like, it's a negative.
Well, that's not how you would. That's not how mathematics works.
All right,
it would be the
bro.
risk of getting paid, where if that, or the probability
The risk of getting
where if
paid.
that is low, the risk is high, and if that is high, the risk is low. That makes sense to me. That's a quantifiable variable that exists as a statistical probability that can be used in mathematical evaluation. That makes sense to me. So if that's what we mean by risk, I can understand that.
Bro,
At
I don't
least
know
in a
if you're being
mathematical
serious or
sense.
not. To be honest, I don't
Of
know
course
if you're
I'm being serious.
I'm not sure if you're like trying to evade the conversation. Do you now understand what quantifying risk means? That's all that matters to me, to be honest.
If we mean like that it's a probability, yeah, then I
But
understand
that's what I'm
we
saying
mean.
since like 20 minutes.
Yeah, but you at no point did you say, oh, it's a probability. It's the
Bro,
probability
it's
of
so
what
good that
of
this
getting
is
paid.
recorded. It's so awesome that this is being recorded. It's
People will
hilarious.
see that you never once said that. You went through a variety of extraordinarily complex examples to try to tease that out, but didn't just directly state that, which is what
Okay,
I would.
but now we're on the same
He
page,
asked
right?
me, how do you
But now we're
mathematically
okay.
quantify risk? I would have said,
I'm
it's
so
the
sorry
probability of getting paid. Where if
I'm
that
so
probability is low,
I
then the
I
risk
hope
is high, and if the probability is high, then the risk is low.
I hope you can forgive me that I have not done that. So the risk is the probability of you not getting paid. Did you understand that now?
I sort of understand that. I don't know what probability of
Oh,
not
no, you're
getting
not done.
paid. Where, I mean,
Bro, I don't know. Do you want to have this conversation, or do you not care anymore?
I'm trying to.
I feel
It's
like you
just,
don't care anymore, and you just want to derail everything. I feel like you're just trying to derail the conversation.
derailing anything. I'm trying to
Okay,
get specifics
you now
so that I can
understand.
understand how you're arguing.
So now you understand that basically an employee is going to his work, working the whole month, and he's taking a risk of not getting paid at the end of the month. And we can calculate that risk by just looking at all of the wages that have been paid in that country, in that region, etc., and calculate the probability, right?
Maybe, I don't know. Can we do that?
Oh my god. Okay, man.
You also seem to be
You
thinking
can,
that like
bro, you can answer that
people who
question
own
yourself. I think.
businesses
I
get
think you can.
paid the
I
same
think you
way that
can.
workers do, which is a premise I don't agree with.
I think you can answer that question yourself. If you can calculate that or not. What do you think? Do you think we can calculate that?
Can we calculate the
Do you think we
probability
can
of somebody
calculate?
getting paid?
Yes. Do you think we can
I
take
would say that is an in principle calculable thing. I'm just not sure if the way that you're saying we go about calculating it
how would you
would actually
calculate
be the method used.
how would you calculate the probability of any event? Do you know
Well, it depends. Am I using a Bayesian method, a numerical method? Because
doesn't matter.
There's going to be
matter. Like,
well,
how would
it does matter because the method that you're using determines how you calculate it.
Can you what would you
So it does matter.
What would you, so can you you can always calculate if you have like Bayesian and if you
I
have
choose to calculate probabilities using a Bayesian analysis. I think that's probably how most people do it.
You can't just choose it. Like there's different scenarios in which you have to apply different mathematical models in order to calculate it.
Well,
you can't just choose it.
Bayesian statistical
it's
analysis.
Not like you can just
any statistics.
It's not like you can just
you
choose
can. You can. Right. Data analysts do this all the time.
All right.
All the time.
All right.
They'll compare different statistical analytic methods.
Bro, I think you're really trying to derail this.
I studied physics. Like I understand this well.
I think you're trying. Yeah, that's why I think you're derailing this. I don't believe you. I don't believe you that you don't understand this. I just don't believe you that you don't understand this. I think you're purposefully derailing the you don't understand. I don't believe you that you're seriously asking me if we can calculate the probability of someone getting paid or not.
I said in principle that's a calculable thing. I just don't know what particular methods would be used for calculating.
And that's a derailment.
I've never done that.
And that's how you that's how you're trying to derail.
And that's me expressing my own ignorance. That's me saying here, I think that this could be done, but how it would be done, I'm not sure about. That's an entirely legitimate answer to give to something.
Okay.
I think houses can be built. I don't know how houses are built.
I swear to God.
That doesn't mean that houses can't be built because
I don't know
how to build
how much longer I will be able to do this. Honestly, I think you're being dishonest, and I think you're derailing the conversation in order to not have it.
You're free to think that.
I really.
I think the playback speaks volumes about this discussion. So
yes,
and I certainly don't think it shows that I've been dishonest or that I've been derailing anything.
I'm sure you don't. Should we end this? I don't know. It's like it's really like I don't know how much longer I can take this. It's a complete like. I think you're a smart guy. I don't think like that's what makes me so not want to engage with this anymore, because I think you're not getting it. I think you're just purposefully derailing the conversation, and that at that point it doesn't make any sense anymore.
I'm just like trying to understand.
If I ask you,
I'm not getting an understanding of that.
Like it's really simple. There is a probability of a business succeeding. There is a probability of somebody not getting paid. These are two events. We can just calculate the probability. It's a very easy thing.
I never said that we couldn't do that. I said I'm not sure of the methods
That's high school. Then don't derail the conversation.
I'm not derailing the conversation.
Just say yes. I don't know. Yes, we can calculate the probability, and then we can compare these probabilities, which is what we're talking about, right? We can compare these probabilities, and I think we can agree.
I don't even know where we got off on probability.
Because you have successfully derailed the conversation in your own mind.
I haven't derailed anything.
You don't know anymore where we started. You just said it. That's I know successful derailment.
I don't know how we got here from where we started.
I can tell you. Do you want me to remind you?
No, I don't.
Okay. You have success. You just prove it again that you want to derail the conversation, and you have done
I haven't.
Successfully.
Describe the specifics of how I'm derailing the conversation. What tactics am I engaging in to do that?
Just so like we just wrap things up. The reason why we're talking about probabilities is that I think that in the surplus value theory, risk is not factored in, and I think that when you're creating surplus, you can do so as a employee. You can do so in your own business. You can create surplus, and both have a probability of getting a return on investment. And in one case, the probability is way higher, and in the other case, the probability is way lower. That's basically what I'm saying.
What is surplus value in the labor theory of value? What does surplus value mean?
I think surplus value exists also outside of the theory of surplus value. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called that way.
Well, it's the labor
surplus-
theory of value, not the theory of surplus value.
Okay, sorry. Surplus just means the value that I'm basically adding to a product through my actions.
Huh? That's value that is added to a commodity.
No, you
by
have
the
like
workers.
you have value of a
Surplus
product.
value is the difference between the
Yes.
value that workers add to a product and what the worker is paid in wages over that same time period. That's what surplus
No,
value
that's
is. I just don't know what risk has to do with that.
okay, bro. I don't know if I like, to be honest. Okay, I'll do it for the last time. Okay. You have a product like wood, okay, and you want to turn it into a chair. In that moment, the wood has a value. You add.
What do you mean by value?
The value that you would get it on the like a price on the market.
Oh yeah, well that's not what value means in the labor theory of value.
That's
value
I'm just telling you my understanding. I'm telling you my understanding of the theory of surplus value. Okay.
Well, then your understanding is misguided because that is not what value means on the
Might
labor
be.
theory of value.
Might be. Do you want to hear it?
Well, it's not might be. That's not what it is.
Do you
I
then
can tell
only,
you what value
then explain what how you understand it?
Well, I understand the way that all
we are not. Do you see that?
Including Karl Marx himself, understood where value is a
do you
theoretical
see-
unobservable.
Do you see
And
how
it
we
is
are not?
the average amount
Wait.
of socially necessary labor requisite to the reproduction
Oh
of
my
a
God.
commodity at some time and some place. Well, you can't ask the question and then not let me answer the question.
Bro, do you see how we are not having a conversation at all? Like this is not a conversation. This is like
No, I don't think it's a
opposite-
very good conversation at
this
all.
is like the opposite of a conversation. This is like very hard. Yeah, let's I don't know, man. I think we should wrap it up. Except if you want to do you have stuff to say? Do you want to say some things?
Yeah, if you want to understand Marxism, the best way is to understand Marx and to read the things that he wrote down. It's not the easiest stuff to understand, but there's literature out there that there's a variety of books written by people who understand Marx, who understand the things that he wrote down, that can serve as guides to understanding the work directly. And I just encourage people to read and to learn. I don't think
Sure.
Marxism isn't like easy stuff, but it's not super hard. It just requires quite a bit of analysis. It requires people to set aside personal biases and make a legitimate attempt at really understanding the world. And so for those that are interested, I just encourage them to read and to learn.